and Kia Ora viewers, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Strategy. For today's guest, he is a powerhouse of personality, content, and unfiltered truth. Someone who's rewriting the rules of how founders show up and get seen. I'm talking about Stanley Henry. He's the founder and CEO of The Attention Seeker, a personal branding agency that helps countless leaders find their voice, own their story, and build real human connection in the noisy digital world. Stanley, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to for the conversation. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. So let's quickly jump to our questionnaire session, Stanley. The first segment that we're talking about is the origin story. So the first question in this segment is, what sparked the idea behind the attention seeker?
To be fair, it was something that was built out of necessity during the time of COVID and lockdowns. But it comes from this idea that when I first went out to start my business, I started to build my personal brand. I did that for about 6 months prior to starting the business. I'd left my job in hotels where I used to run hotels. I came back to New Zealand. I started to build my brand on LinkedIn. And then when lockdown hit, and we were all put into our homes for that period of time, I had a lot of people reach out to me asking if I could help them with their personal brand and their LinkedIn. And so because the world was in a crazy place, I didn't understand where the next dollar might come from for myself. And so I took every opportunity I could. And it just so happened that people were willing to pay me to help to do this. And it started to take off from there, where people were really eager to build their reputation on LinkedIn, to grow their business, because they couldn't get out and meet people in real life. And so that was kind of where the genesis started. It was really out of necessity and me thinking, man, I really don't know where I'm going to make money in the future. I've left my hotel career. The hotel industry had been decimated. And so I was a little bit desperate, but I also knew that I had done something a little bit different to everyone else in building this sort of personal brand on LinkedIn. I was quite early in the piece when I did it. So yeah, that's really where it started from. It's kind of accident. But then when I saw the opportunity and people started to ask me for help, I doubled down. Every dollar that I brought in, I hired more people. And I started hiring literally from the very first client to just start to build an actual agency, because I understood that I wanted to do something that could live past me as well. And if it was just like a coaching business or a freelance business, it would always require every ounce of my time.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing the story. That's really lovely. Awesome. So the next question, this is the attention seeker. It's quite intriguing. It's such a catchy and unique name. How did you come up with that name?
Yeah, interestingly, I knew attention. I wanted attention as part of the name because I understood at the time that the attention economy was something that was starting to be talked about, and I understood that getting people's attention was something that we needed. So I actually came out with 4 or 5 different versions of it. I think there was I don't know, the Attention Club or something. There was variations of it. Obviously not great, but I had 4 or 5, and I sent it to about 20 people that I knew, friends and family, and I asked them to rank it in order of best to worst. And every single person came back with the Attention Seeker as number 1. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's the name. And that's kind of where the name came from. And originally, it was going to be like a product of what we did, as in the personal branding product of being an attention seeker. But then I was speaking to a branding expert on just a call one day, and she said to me, she's like, her name's Rosie. And Rosie said to me, Stan, the attention seeker is the business name. It's not a product, it is the business. So actually, I have to thank Rosie. Rosie said to me, this is not a product you offer. You are the attention seeker. This is the business. So friends and family voted on it, came back with the name, and then Rosie convinced me to make it the full company name.
Love it. Love it. Validation at an early stage. That's the best thing to do. Awesome. Lovely. Jumping on to the next question. Now, you mentioned that your journey from hospitality to now building brands. What did the early days for Attention Seeker look like? I mean, what challenges did you face at that point of time?
Yeah, I think when you're early in business, especially in a professional services-based business, you sell people for a living. That's what you do. You sell people's time. I still do that now. And my team, because as knowledge workers, we're selling our time. And so at the beginning, one, you don't have a lot of people in your team to sell, and also you don't have a lot of revenue to hire a lot of people to sell. So I think one of the biggest challenges is that chicken and egg, like which comes first, hiring the people or finding the clients. And so for me, it was always just like balancing those two things. Like initially, clients came first. I sold in clients that I could do the work, but because I didn't want to do the work, as soon as I got those retainers, I hired people so I could keep going out and selling. And then eventually I got people. Now I needed more clients to pay the rest of that salary. And then it just kind of like this back and forth. Yeah, that's like a really hard challenge in professional services, to commit to a salary of someone when you don't have any of that historical evidence that these retainers will maintain. I'm not necessarily advocating that people should go out and take the risks that I did. I was pretty, I took a lot of risks at the beginning. I was able to because I had such a successful career in hotels that I had quite a bit of a runway of cash behind me, of my own money. And I also worked in Australia, where I had a really good superannuation backed away, that even like I could retire on the money that's sitting in there. So I could take a lot of risks, knowing that if the business failed, it didn't really matter. I'd just go get another job or start a new business or do whatever. So I took a lot more risks than probably what other people did. But that is the challenge. That's the hardest thing in a professional services, is like when to hire, who to hire, and like how are you going to maintain an influx of new business to keep that growth happening? Because a service-based business is nothing without scale. Like, so you need it to be a certain size, otherwise you'll forever be small. And so it's either stay small or go big. But to go big is this dance.
That is brilliant. That is, and definitely, like capital plays a vital role at that point of time as well. So, yep, love
Yeah.
that answer. Thank you for that. So that brings us to the end of segment one. Jumping on to the next segment, which is the strategy behind visibility. Now, it's a very intriguing point, because the first question in this segment is the attention seeker, I believe, is managing the brand building for person and a product. Now,
Yeah.
how do you identify which strategy or which approach goes best for both of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Typically, what we'll see is, and on a personal brand level, you're probably doing much more business to business relationship selling. So it doesn't mean you have to be a B2B product. It just means the audience you're looking for is a much more B2B audience. So like an example is, if you are a you're a mortgage broker, it's a much personal, it's actually more like a professional services based thing. Let's call an accountant. It's probably easier to talk about. An accountant, personal branding is probably a lot easier and more effective for them than a company brand, because people are buying the accountant at the end of the day. So their personal brand is so much easier as a personal relationship. When it comes to, say, Nike selling shoes, it obviously makes a lot better to do a business brand, right? And then that way you can like get people to buy into the brand and the ethos and all that. However, when you're a small startup brand, when you're, say, like a brand new drink beverage, right? You might be looking for investors. You might be looking for distributors and stuff like that to help grow your brand. That's where the personal brand comes in. So because those are B2B relationships, distributors, supermarkets, investors. So you might be looking at a B2B strategy as part of your work to grow your B2C brand. That's where the personal brand comes in. But when you're just trying to push a product or trying to build a world or an ecosystem that people live into and sell a lifestyle or a dream, that's where the brand comes in. So if you're trying to push more B2C transactional purchases, I typically say a brand's more efficient. And if you're trying to say a B2B relationship, a personal brand's more efficient. It doesn't mean they both can't do each thing, just the efficiency ways.
Love that matrix. Thank you for that. Awesome. So the second question is kind of correlative to what we've been talking about as well. So in your view, what's that one thing founders get wrong about personal branding?
Yeah, I think most founders, most people in general, to be honest, think that their marketing has to talk about how good they are at things and like show off over how amazing we are at what we do. And the thing is, with a paid strategy, fine. If you're doing a paid performance strategy, you need to showcase value, because you're trying to get people to go, you're a very good accountant. I'm going to click on you and then hopefully you'll be my accountant, right? But when you are doing marketing and branding and content production, especially from a personal branding perspective, you're actually trying to get people to trust you, is what you're trying to do. Now, people don't trust people because they're the best at something. They trust people because they relate to them. So the best accountant doesn't make me trust you as the best accountant. There's no way for me to know you're the best accountant until we work together. I need to trust you first. So the personal brand approach is, instead of talking about all things you're best at, how about you start to talk about the just like your story, your journey, what you've been up to, your learnings. What can you teach me about something? Like if you watch a lot of my content as an example, I'm known for building my business in public on LinkedIn, and that I share every ups and downs about building my business on LinkedIn. That story, like oversharing all the parts of it, of how hard it is to run a business, but also how rewarding it is. People trust me for a certain, like to a certain level, so that when they are thinking about, oh, we need some help in our organic social media marketing, or we need some help with personal branding, they're going to reach out and go, well, I don't necessarily know if he's the best because he hasn't told us, but I do trust him and he has done it for himself. So we can at least have the conversation with him, right? And so that's kind of where I think people go wrong. Instead, what a lot of marketers might do, I mean, marketers historically are terrible at marketing themselves. But if they were to do that, they would go out and talk about case studies. Like, look at this customer that we did over here. Look how good it is. Or look at this award that we won or something. And actually, like outside of your industry, the everyday person just doesn't get it. They don't understand. They don't understand your world. And so content doesn't do very well. So my advice is, if you're going to build personal branding, don't start building your brand by showcasing how good you are. Showcase your brand by how trustworthy you are, or how relatable you are, or how much you connect with this audience that you're trying to find.
Is it more of customer sentiment value that needs to be showcased more as a personal branding, or how do you connect in that segment?
You're kind of finding like you're just trying to find a human truth that you can relate to with your particular audience you want to talk to. So, let's say you are an accountant, to keep that train of thought. Accountants want to talk to other business owners, right? And so what is there something that you can relate to with other business owners? Now, well, in New Zealand, it's pretty easy. Like 70-something% of business owners are middle-aged men. In New Zealand, it's like over-indexing of men. So there's a lot of business out there that you could just relate to that person as you're a male accountant relating to another male business owner. For instance, in New Zealand, if you talked about the rugby All Blacks game on the weekend, the rugby, they'd all get it, right? If you talked about the cricket, if you talked about sport in general, there's some relatability. Now, I'm not saying just always talk about rugby, but what I'm trying to say is you're trying to find something that you can relate to as humans together, first of all, before you just go talk business. The best way to think about it is if you go for like a barbecue at a friend's house or a dinner with colleagues or something, you don't sit there just talking about how good you are as an accountant the whole time. You talk about more personal things and you build relationships with people. So in a personal branding respect, you're trying to find stuff that you and I can relate to. Sometimes it's about kids. What's it like with kids, or trying to run a business with a family, and on all those are like really relatable things for people. And most people be like, well, that shouldn't really live on LinkedIn, or that shouldn't really live in the business world. It's like the business world doesn't get to be separate to the real world. Like we can't just turn up to work and be someone else. We are who we are with our lives. So like buy into those things. And at social media, this isn't the boardroom. We're not talking in the boardroom here. We're talking on social media. So like relate to people that you are trying to relate to. Have a think about their demographic and their interests, and try to make content in that way. That stuff that you would want to read. Like if you put up something that you would never read, it's probably not good content.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. Jumping into the next one is from the attention seeker point of view. Can strategy and authenticity coexist, or do they clash sometimes?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that they can coexist. I think that actually strategy helps you find your authentic self. Like it finds what's really real. Like the things I just spoke about there about finding things that are relatable, that is like putting a really good strategy in place to go, like, I want to be me on social media. I don't want to be this, like, take as a marketer. I don't walk around going, I am such a good marketer. Oh my God, look at marketing metrics. That's just not who I am. I'll talk about fitness or music or like sport or whatever it might be, like all these like common interests that I have. And so, or actually, like I do talk about business and leadership. Like I don't talk about marketing, but I love talking about business and business modeling and things. And lots of people do in growing my business. So I can develop a strategy that enables me to talk about those things so much more, which then allows me to become more authentic. Whereas if I didn't have a strategy, maybe my first intuitive thought would be, let's go tell the world how good I am at marketing, right? And then I'm being a little bit inauthentic in that space. I think authenticity is one of those words that we hear a lot of, and it's become more prominent in the marketing world right now about being more authentic, especially with the rise of, say, like TikTok and these like short form videos that are very raw and real. But authenticity doesn't mean real. It just means authentic to the brand that you're trying to represent. And the reason I say that is that we can go and watch a movie of cartoon characters and we can cry, right? We can fully immerse ourselves and cry. Like, there's the amount of people who have watched Inside Out, the movie, and cried because of it is like, like it's silly when you think about you crying to these cartoon characters. But the reason is that storytelling is really authentic. It's very authentic. It's very true to what it is and what it's trying to achieve as a message. And therefore we feel it as humans. And so what that says is that our content doesn't need to be real. It just needs to be truthful to us and who we are. And a strategy helps you sift through everything and find the core element of it. That's all a strategy. A strategy is designed to simplify things, not to make it more complicated. And so by getting more simplified on it, you get a stronger message, which allows you to be more authentic.
Again, a wonderful response. Thanks for that,
That's
Stanley.
okay.
Awesome. That brings us to the next segment, which is leadership, identity, and growth. So, Stanley, you briefly mentioned about leadership. So, the first question in this segment kind of drives in that direction. Is you build a business around brand personality per se. How do you lead a team in that environment?
How do I lead a team? I honestly, like from the front, like I think the fact that I built this business off of my brand and who I am as a business owner and as a leader means that like two things have to happen. One, I have to be that person that I say I am. And the way that it shows up in content isn't always the way it shows up in reality. So being able to bridge that gap between the two. But also, like me as a personality, like me in this podcast, like people are going to think, oh, here's this guy who's really confident at talking and he's extroverted and all these sorts of stuff. But actually, if you really know me, I'm actually very introverted and I get really exhausted by like hanging out with lots of people all day, even though that's my whole job. And so at the end of the day, I'm always quite exhausted. And I'm often in the mornings or during the day, I'm quite quiet. And people will think, oh, is he grumpy or whatever? So I have to be able to like show up and say, no, I'm not grumpy. I'm just like, you've seen me online before you started here and you thought I was a particular way, but I'm actually like this. And that's been like a hard thing for a lot of people who come into business to realize like, oh, I thought you were so loud and extroverted and whatever, but you're actually quite quiet. And like they thought I was grumpy, but I wasn't grumpy. I just wasn't talking because I just was like trying to reserve energy. So that's like quite a hard thing when you show up with such a strong personal brand, people make an assumption of what you're like, but until they get to know you, which they can only do by being around you, they don't really truly know you. But there can be a little bit of a conflict there, right, between people who come in and what their expectations were. But also that like I have to be careful about, I say stuff online and then I articulate it in a way that potentially isn't fully true. It's not the right way to put it. It's too nuanced to be comprehensive enough as a piece of content. And therefore my team might look at it and go, I don't know if that's really true. I think there's exceptions to that. And that's quite a hard thing to balance, So I think I think it's good. I think what it does is it shows my team, hey, we can't ever complain. Stan's out there leading from the front, showing us how it's done. And he is leading the way for all of us to follow. So that's real positive, very good. It attracts a lot of talent to our team and makes it really easy to hire. However, on the flip side of that, it also means that like you're constantly on a stage to not just the world, but also your team who are validating these things that you're putting out. And if you are starting to tell lies or not quite truths, your team will be the first to call you out for it.
That's amazing. And how bringing a previous point back as well, that in a business, your team actually authenticates your role. So definitely agree. Love it. Awesome. The next question is, as a leader, what have you learned about your own vulnerability at your workplace, and how do you manage that?
Um, my vulnerability is that, like, the way I see it, what I've learned is that I am far more vulnerable and resilient than the average person, is what I found out. Because I will do and say things that other people go, "How do you do that? How you got the confidence to do that?" I could never, and I never questioned it. Like, I just did it because it was a non-issue, a non-starter for me. And actually, then I had to do a lot of, like, I wouldn't say soul searching, but I had to, like, figure out, like, why am I like this? And it's just because, like, I've had a pretty tough life. Like, I grew up quite poor financially. I had a pretty rough, like, late teenage years and got into a bit of trouble and left and dropped out of, like, started uni 3 times, dropped out 3 times, moved to Australia, lived on the street for a bit. Like, I didn't like, I've had it pretty rough. And, like, I, all of those experiences taught me that, like, tomorrow's a new day. Like, you can go again. So it doesn't matter. Do whatever you want today. Like, tomorrow's fine. Like, start again tomorrow. That isn't a concept a lot of people can sit with and be okay with. A lot of people think if I do something today, tomorrow's ruined. And I just don't think that way. Like, whatever I do today, I can fix tomorrow. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that. I'm not going to do anything that's, like, gonna, you know, break the law or, like, hurt people. But I can make fun of myself and I can fix it tomorrow. Like, I don't really believe in cancel culture. I don't think it's true. I think cancel culture is something that you do to yourself when you give up on proving it. And we've seen that because there's lots of people, like Dave Chappelle is a really good example as a comedian who they tried to cancel him and he just said, "No, you're not going to." And then he just continued and he's still super successful. He just blatantly said to everyone, "No, you're not canceling me. Like, this isn't going to happen. Try your best. I'm not going to have it." Now, there's lots of examples of people who have done that. So I don't think that sort of stuff happens. I think that you can just drive forward. And I think so. My vulnerability in the business, it's something I've figured out isn't normal, but also more importantly, is that it's allowed my team who aren't naturally vulnerable or have the same resilience I do to learn to have it and learn to, like, speak to things that they're struggling with and that they need help with. And, like, we did a conversation. A really good example real quickly is we do these 90-minute training sessions on a Friday afternoon from 3:30 to 5 p.m. every single week. And it's always me or one of the senior teams taking the team through some concept. And a couple of months ago, we did one on perfectionism. And for a lot of people, for a certain subset of people in the world, perfectionism is seen as a positive trait, that we are perfect at what we do, or everything we do is to a high standard. I'm always looking to be the best. But actually, like, for a lot of the rest of the world, it is a negative thing because it stops you from actually achieving things and it stops you from moving forward and actually getting things to go. And we had a couple of people in the team who it really hit home with, who prided themselves on being a perfectionist. But when they started to hear everyone talk about it, they started to realize, like, "Oh, yeah, but I do that. But what do you mean that's holding me back? How is that not pushing me forward?" But by me being super vulnerable with our team all the time and opening up the space for these conversations, these people were able to open up and have these really deep, hard conversations as a team. And now are, like, finding ways to move through it. We don't want them to stop being, like, high standards. We want that. They are great. But we also want them to be able to sometimes say, "Oh, tomorrow's a new day. Let's just give it a go. Let's just give it a crack." And so I think that's how it shows up for me. I realize that I'm quite unique in my in the normal business world around how vulnerable I am and whatnot. But then also my team, it allows them to start being more vulnerable and find out more about themselves.
That is an inspirational story that you have shared, Stanley. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting us know a little more about you. So that's really awesome.
Yeah,
Lovely.
you're welcome.
Next question in this segment is, as a CEO, what is that something that you've unlearned from your past experience?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Um, the things that I've unlearned from my previous experience, I would say that rather than unlearning necessarily, no, I guess I have, it is an unlearning. I was in my hotel experience, I was the GM, and I used to have a lot of people to do different roles, and one of them being sales. I used to not want to do sales. I used to think I have a team who can do it and whatnot. And I used to think it was quite a transactional endeavor to just like, okay, sign the contract, get it through, become a client. And I actually think a lot of people would think like that because that's how you buy groceries or that's how you buy shoes. You know, it's quite transactional. You do the thing. So then when you go to buy a service, you might think it's the same, like it's quite a transactional approach. But then because we had not a lot of us had bought a marketing agency before, right? And so I had to unlearn this idea or concept that sales was an easy end of the transaction piece. And that actually what it really was this dance with the client for a period of weeks or months until you get them into a position where you've highlighted the value to buy our services. And that was quite hard at the beginning because I was like, I still really remember this one instance with one of our clients, Drew, who's still a client of ours today, late 2020. I went to his house to pitch to come on as a client. And I started taking him through like the contract or the proposal. And it was very like, do this, buy this, give us some money kind of thing, right? Like very tactical. And he was like, hang on, Stan. Like, I like you. We get along really well. But this doesn't mean anything to me. All this is saying is if I give you this money, you'll do this thing for me. But I don't even know what that is or what this does. Like, let's talk it through. And he took me back and allowed me to understand how to like take him through this journey and like tell me understand what this is. For me, that was like quite an eye opener because it's like, well, you just want the deal done. Like you said, you wanted leads. I'm telling you how I'm going to get you leads. Isn't that what you asked for? And he's like, well, no, like this is a service-based business. Like most of what I'm paying you for is to talk to you, not to get the leads. That's not, if I want the leads, I'll just go and add person. I'll just get leads. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to build a relationship here, Stan. I need to do this. And so like in hotels, someone books a room, someone books a dinner. Like it's very transactional. Just do the thing. You want some food? You want a hotel room? Give me the money. Here's the thing. And so I had to unlearn this idea of like sales isn't transactional. Sales is relationship building. I have to take people on a journey. I have to get them to understand the value because anyone, like they could choose anyone. Why are they choosing me? So that was actually quite a hard thing. And I think I'm pretty good at it these days. I've gotten a lot better than I used to be. But I'm very good at like taking people on a journey and trying to let them understand why they need to work with us because of what they've told me.
The best, I think that's the best tagline of this questionnaire. Sales is not transactional, it's relationship building. Love it.
Yeah.
That's something really amazing to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, so that's okay.
Awesome. That brings us to next segment, Stanley. This is habits, tools, and what's next. So the first question in this is, what habits usually keep you grounded in your mission to success?
Yeah, I have a bunch. I'm really big on habits and rituals. I think that if you don't have them, like a lot of your life goes awry if you don't have things to keep you in check. And so I have things like my exercise, physical fitness. I have to keep in like very habitual. So at the moment, I'm running a lot. I probably need to add more strength training into my habits at the moment. I used to do a lot of strength training and then I changed and I tried to do a lot more cardio, but I need to probably mix the two. So health is a huge one. My diet as well. Like I love eating food. I love food. But when you have a love for food and you're a man like me who can put on weight very easily, it is not something that you can do all the time. So I have a lot of like habits around what I eat so that most of the time, 90% of the time, it's very mundane. What I eat. I eat the same chicken and broccoli every day. I eat the same sort of food every day. So that on the Fridays and the Saturdays, I can go out and enjoy meals. That habit of eating the same thing is actually quite hard. A lot of people like variety when it comes to food, and I like all this stuff, and I just really habitual with it. Simple stuff are just about how I run my day, how I frame my calendar, how my EA and I work together, and how we do things. Creating content. I do a lot, like for me now, because I have a team, a lot of my habits are actually like guided by other people. So I'm in quite a fortunate position where I can hire people inside the team who have parts of their role to help me do the things I need to do, be it taking time out for myself, working through complex problems, creating content, financial stuff, whatever. I have a lot of things there. But you know, morning and night routines, real simple stuff, like nothing crazy from a habits perspective, but I do them all the time. I do the same things. I have this bottle that has my creatine in every single day. I have like the vitamins or the fish oil and stuff that I take every day. Like I have these certain things that I do. I have a cupboard back here full of protein snacks to ensure that I get my protein intake that I need every day. So I have all these little things, especially around diet and exercise, because and if I think if you get those two things right, sets a lot of the rest of your day up, especially in a high performance job as CEO of a fast growing agency. Like you can't be thinking about when to exercise. You just need to know it's going to happen because you got too many other things to think about.
Now that's amazing. And one question out of it, Stanley, you mentioned about delegation helped you attain self discipline a little more. Would you like to elaborate on that aspect of how were you able to achieve this with your current routine?
Yeah, I think that like a lot of people, it's not normal for humans in modern times to delegate their personal responsibilities or their personal actions to other people. And so what I mean by that, like it's not often there's a lot of people out there who don't think of hiring someone to take care of their lunch every day. It's not a thing that a lot of people do. I know in some places there are and whatever, and for those people, great. But for a lot of people, especially in like say where I'm at in Auckland, New Zealand, there's not a lot of people who would think that their diet or their food should be delegated to someone else. Now, I'm fortunate enough that my wife does a lot of that for me, so that's quite great. But those sorts of things, it wasn't my wife the whole time through this business. My last EA used to order my lunch every day to make sure that I ate good food. Content is a big one. So personal branding, one of the biggest things with personal branding is consistent effort. And that's really hard to have the willpower to create content every single day. So I've been able to delegate to Charlotte, who's our head of copy. She interviews me twice a week and helps me pull stories out and turn that into original content for us. I have my social media manager, Amy, who helps me. She's sitting right over there listening to this podcast, and she will like help figure out story arcs and content ideas to make videos from the things that happen in my day. That sort of stuff is like stuff you have to do. And in most situations, people just do it themselves because they just think, oh, this is just something for me. But I delegate, like even as far as like uh, my my wife's in a different position in life at the moment, so she's taken back a lot of these things. But previously, like washing clothes or like cleaning the house or stuff, like it seems like people will be like, why would you spend money on someone else doing that? That's so lazy, just do it. And it's like, actually what I'm doing is I'm buying back time so I can take care of that, because like habits all require willpower. So going for a run is a very like high willpower taxing activity, right? It takes a lot of willpower to go for a run, especially in winter, go out for a run. So if I can delegate and offload a lot of like really simple tasks, like
Mm.
cooking lunch, doing the washing, helping my content get made, all these things that like have to happen, but just it allows me to have all this extra willpower to go tackle the big stuff that is going for a run, things that I can't get someone to run for me. You know, that's not going to be a thing. So it's just that. It's just like freeing up your mind and your time and your space by like delegating through, like I'm in a fortunate position. I can pay people to do those sorts of things and not everyone can. But I think there are ways to like do these more efficiently. AI is helping people do a lot of stuff that you don't, you can delegate things to AI now. There are a lot of like ways to outsource certain tasks offshore to places where like if you're in a Western country, or I shouldn't even say that. If you're in an advanced nation that has quite a high income bracket, there are a lot of other countries where you can outsource work to, where you're actually probably paying them above market rate in their own country. So it's a win-win for both parties. So those sorts of opportunities are still available as well. I think there's lots of like ways there to like delegate and get that stuff off, just to free up your time and your mind.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely agree. Awesome. So the next question is, what is that next big thing I would call for attention seeker, and what are you building towards?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I feel like there's lots, but realistically, so we're always trying to grow here at the Attention Seeker. We've been on this growth mission for a while. We're grow at all costs sort of business. I think for me, like the most exciting piece is figuring out how we grow through an acquisition model. Um, we have a really good growth model just from new business coming through the door. That's fine. Then that'll continue. But we've always grown at an exponential rate. So to keep that exponentiality inside of our growth, one of the things we think is that we're going to need to acquire smaller agencies or other, maybe even bigger agencies, to grow our network that way. So that's something we've been thinking a lot of lately. Like, I think that there's an opportunity to acquire an agency in Australia, as an example, and then set up shop that way through Australia. It obviously takes a lot of capital investment and a lot of time and lawyers and accountants and stuff, so it's quite costly. So it's nothing that we would rush into. But I think that there's opportunities for us to grow that way. I also think there's a way for us to grow by merger. And then there's a lot of smaller agencies in more regional places in New Zealand, as an example, that might merge with us to leverage our brand and the talent that we have inside of our business. But they'll forever be naturally small. So, like, for those listening who understand New Zealand well, in Hamilton, as an example, they probably can't sustain a huge agency just in Hamilton, so they'll forever be quite small, or they'll have to move to Auckland or Christchurch or Australia. And so by partnering with or merging with a company like that in a smaller region where they are naturally always only going to be 5 to 10 people, we can supply them with all the extra expertise that we have in our head office here in Auckland, so they can take on bigger jobs and do bigger things, but they don't have the capital costs or the overheads that a bigger agency needs. Then for our benefit, we grow our team by 10, our revenue into a region that we otherwise don't have presence in. But also, like, for some of the larger national campaigns, you can have agencies across the country that allow you to take on big national campaign deals and pitch that way by saying, hey, we've actually got satellite offices in Hamilton, Wellington, Christchurch, which just gives a lot of confidence to bigger brands to be like, okay, so you could actually work with us across this country. So that's kind of the expansion stuff that we're kind of thinking of and where we're trying to go next. Like, rather than just trying to build our brand bigger, can we organically, can we do it through some acquisition models?
Love it. That's awesome. Thank you for that, Stanley. This brings us to the last segment of our show, which is the rapid fire, the casual and fun, fast and hasty.
Okay, let's do it.
Awesome. So only unlimited questions, but the first one is, this question is a little tricky, so I would ask it in a very, very, comforting form. Okay. The best advice that you've ever ignored?
Ignored? Oh, that is a hard one. So much advice. Okay, my dad in 2000 and I think it was 2010. In 2010, he said to me, he rings me up and he's like, Stan, I think you should, you've got some money behind you at the moment, because I was doing all right in my career. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I think you should take $1,000. Can you lose $1,000? I'm like, oh, I don't want to. He's like, but could you? And I was like, yeah. He's like, buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. I was like, shut up, Dad. You don't know what you're talking about. Bitcoin's nothing. I mean, I think it was like $3 a Bitcoin back then. Oh, man, I would be so wealthy right now. He didn't have a lot of money at the time, so he couldn't do it. No, that's what I said. I was like, you doing? He's like, well, I don't have the money like you do, Stan. I can't risk it, but like, I know you can. And I didn't. And I mean, look at it now. What is it now? It's close to 200,000 New Zealand dollars, 130 something thousand US. Like, whew. Yeah.
Well, the biggie goes and the biggie comes back. Okay. Awesome. The next question is a piece of content that changed your life.
Piece of content that changed my life that I created or someone I watched?
Either.
I remember there's a creator called Matt Diavella. He's a creator about minimalism, and he was interviewing this guy from New York who was this young guy who owned this guy who owned an agency. And at the time, I've been watching Matt Diavella for a while, and I watched this interview and I was like, who is this guy? Why is he talking like this? He's a bit annoying, but also 100% true. And I was listening to it, I was like, man, this guy's real good. Anyway, I started looking at all his content, and it turned out his name was Gary V. And he was just like, I just got obsessed with him and everything he was saying. And he is the reason I had the confidence to go out on my own, because I was like, no, I agree. I agree with this guy. It's the first time I heard someone say the things that I think and what I believe in. And he's actually proved and done it. Okay, I can do this. And so actually, it definitely changed my life by like watching this piece of content with Matthew Vella. I met Gary. I got introduced to Gary Vee, and then I watched and I consumed all this content, and I just became obsessed. And now I'm a super fan.
Awesome. Thanks for that. The next is one thing that instantly grabs your attention online.
my my Instagram feed is uh like a bunch of people in the team know like my Instagram feed is like very, very good, like in terms of like funny, humorous content. And honestly, I just love people. I love how funny people are just in everyday life, just in like doing the random things. Like, so anytime I see people telling stories about super relatable things that happen in real life, just every day, just highlighting the mundane but relatable stuff that is kind of silly and we just do. I will watch and I will laugh. Like my wife just is like, she'll see me on a scroll and I'll just be laughing my head off. I can't help but watch that. And then, like it sounds a little silly because like I'm quite a like switched on guy who watches a lot of educational content, a lot of like high level thinking stuff. But honestly, like you get me a run on super funny, relatable videos, and I will stop and watch all day long.
Love it. Awesome. One last question, and I think this is a very interesting one because you got to speak for your team. One emoji that defines Stanley Henry.
Oh, one emoji. Oh, that is so. I mean, the first thing that comes to my head is the money with the wings, as in all my money's flying out the door. Um, to be honest, that's it. I used it the other day actually thinking about it, but like it kind of is like my wife would probably say the same. Like every dollar that comes into our business is flying straight out the door again somewhere else. I'm just spending it to grow, and like so for me, that's probably it. I mean, my team will probably have other suggestions, and Amy's sitting there probably thinking of a bunch. But yeah, that'd be mine actually. The money of the wings on it. Every dollar that comes in, it flies out straight away.
Well, there's another perception to that. You can call it a dollar fairy.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. That's amazing, Stanley. This brings us to the end of our show. Stanley, once again, thank you so much for bringing your energy, honesty, and vision that only you can. You've reminded us that strategy isn't just about someone else. It is about being intentional with who you really are. And that is exactly what the content that we need for our show. So thank you once again for being a part of this.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me on and having me as a guest.
Love it. Thank you so much. And also to our viewers, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share this video with everyone you can. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep talking strategy. This is Let's Talk Strategy. Thank you.